Hello and welcome to episode number 86 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam.
And I'm back.
Yes, welcome back. Back, that is.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you've got, for those of you who don't know, this is Sahil. He didn't introduce himself, but he is back on the show. Has not taken the bar yet. You're taking the bar early next week.
Yes, I am. We are recording this on Sunday the 24th. I drove down from Baltimore to Raleigh this morning, left at 5:30 a.m., bright and early. I'm recording this from my hotel room. I originally told Cam I was going to take off until after the bar, but I decided I needed a break. And I thought that this was just an insane week of matchups, an insane group of trades. And I was like, damn, I don't really want to miss out on talking about this. So taking a break here to record.
Taking a break to record. You'll probably be actively taking the bar when this podcast goes up. So that's fun.
Yeah, I won't even have my phone on me. I'm going to have to leave my phone in the hotel room because I can't bring it with me to the testing site. So I'm going to have to rush back on Tuesday or Wednesday from taking the exam just to see what if you posted the podcast yet or not.
Yeah, drop everything. You don't even listen back to the podcast, but drop everything to see if the podcast has made its way up.
I mean, honestly, like usually the first thing I do when I open my phone is check Slack. Like Slack is like consistently the one thing that's open on my computer all day. That and the Dynasty baseball spreadsheet. So it wouldn't be too different from what I usually do.
Yeah, no, that's true. Check that. You got to check Flagpoll. You'll be losing your special Flagpoll treatment once you are back on a normal-ish sleep schedule. I'm going to stop sending you early advanced copies.
Well, I've actually been, if you haven't noticed, I've been actually submitting them like in the mornings at like normal times recently, not at like midnight.
Well, that's good. We are, speaking of which, we are. I don't know how many active regular listeners there are that don't do Flagpoll. I guess it's Ruthvik, but Flagpoll, we are halfway through. I guess Ruthvik, for you, you can just skip through the next 30 seconds. But we are halfway through Flagpoll, which means we are halfway to getting our way into the flag tournament. How do you feel, Sahil? I know you're just looking for arguments. How do you feel so far about the arguments we've had and for the potential for future arguments?
Oh, I think there's going to be a lot of arguments. I didn't realize that I've started some controversies. I'm embarrassed to have rated a Liberian country flag that high. Anything above a 1 is apparently bad, and I quickly realized the error of my ways. But hey, I'm excited to pick some fights. You know, it's like hockey, but I don't have to, be physical with the fight.
Exactly. Yeah, we're just a bunch of hockey guys and gals here in Flagpoll. Getting into fights all the time. But yeah, that was Ruthvik. You can flip it. You can get back into the episode here. Because it's time to talk about the league. What a stupid week, huh? It felt like a playoff week, and because of that, nothing that starts with playoffs can end in happiness, I guess.
Yeah, that is the Cincinnati Reds motto, and the Seattle Mariners motto. Except the Mariners don't make the playoffs, so they don't really have a playoff motto, but. And maybe that is their motto, but
nothing starts in playoffs for the Mariners.
There were 3 matchups between playoff teams this week, and all of them came down to the last day, and in the case of 2 of them, to the last game, and one of them is still up in the air at the time of recording. 2 of the other 3 matchups were very close, and also were decided on this last day. I think we're going to have a rare 5-win, a 5-category win matchup. We don't see
those
too
true.
often.
We do not see those too often. You are right.
Yeah, and what, just seven, I'm looking here, just 7-5, 7-5, 6-6, 5-4-3, 6-5-1, and then a 10-2 in there. But I mean, all those other scores were insanely close.
Yeah, this
And
will only
not,
be the ninth time in league history a team has won with 5 categories or fewer. Only the second time this year. So definitely interesting. Either way, a lot of close matchups except for Yuki's. We'll get to those. But before we get to that, want to talk about the trades that happened?
yeah, let's talk about the trades that happened. I think that was one of the more fun parts of the week. I can't speak for you on that, but um, big week for a few of us in the trade market. Let's first start with the Stanton Stranglers has agreed to trade Mike Clevenger to Bo with the Flow for Eugenio Suarez. Cam, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Jake's acquiring another starting pitcher. He's got a lot of them. You'll see later in the week he acquires even one more.
Two more.
But two more.
Yeah.
Two more. Oh yeah, no, two
Yeah.
more. It's not a two more. Kindergarten cop.
Love it.
Uh, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You do a great Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, but yeah, that's I mean explains why by the end of the week he was offering me starting pitchers in deals. I ended up turning him down. I couldn't bear to part with the piece he wanted. But anyway, he's acquiring starting pitchers. I gotta say I was pretty much out on Mike Clevenger going into the year, and I was largely out on Eugenio Suarez going into the year. They both kind of had bounce back years, both proving me wrong a little bit. Clevenger's got a 3.50 ERA, a 1.12 WHIP. He's only made how many starts has he made?
Not 9 starts and 10 appearances.
Yeah, 9 starts, but 9 starts, 10 appearances, but they've been pretty good. And I guess 2 of his last 3 have been kind of rocky, but I think he was an ace as recently as 3-4 years ago, and he's not terribly old. I think he could be a good get for Jake. And Suarez is kind of the same way. He just completely stopped hitting the ball, hitting line drives. But he's had a bounce back year in Seattle, kind of hitting WRC plus wise, hitting the same as he was at his peak. I know with the ball being different and with the ballpark being different, that's not translating quite into raw numbers as it did when he hit 49 home runs, but he's still doing well. I think this is an interesting deal for both sides. Definitely my takeaway is that it's way more interesting than it would have been 3 months ago.
Yeah, way more interesting than it would have been 3 months ago. But also not quite as interesting as it would have been in year 2 of the league in 2019. But speaking of trades that would look very different now, do we remember the great trade that was made 3 years ago? I told you I'd fit this into the episode. When David Dahl was traded 1-for-1 for DJ LeMahieu exactly 3 days or 3 years ago today.
So that's a weird trade, huh? Was David Dahl? How much value did David Dahl have 3 years ago today? Because LeMahieu was having a great season.
David Dahl is 28 right now, so he just turned 28. So he was just turned 25 at the time of the trade.
Is that his All-Star year?
That was his All-Star year. He had a 353 OBP, 15 homers, 4 steals, a 111 WRC plus. It had a 386 OBP though. So you want to guess what his WRC plus was the year after having a 111 WRC plus that year?
79.
It was 11.
Oh my.
I know. So David Dahl is now on the Nationals my AAA team. He just signed a contract 2 days ago. So after spending most of the season with the Brewers AAA team. So
And LeMahieu's having a bounce back year.
well, maybe he was having a bounce back year. He had the hernia last year, but he's a lot healthier this year. But so good for him. But getting back to this trade, I have the same concerns with you with that Clevenger with the double TJ. He has pitched well this year when he stayed healthy, but he's also, I think, had at least one and maybe multiple IL stints already. I think Clevenger is more upside in his arm than Eugenio Suarez has in his bat. For as good as a season as Eugenio Suarez is having, the K rate is up at 31.9%. And I just wonder at some point if that's going to come back to bite him. In his best seasons in 17 and 18 and 19, that K rate was more like 23%, 23.5%. So we'll see. I think Suarez is the safer floor just because I don't have the same injury concerns with him. I think Clevenger is the higher upside. I think it kind of comes down to positional need. I don't have a strong opinion one way or another. Like, I think you could argue both sides of this trade, and I think it's just pretty fair. I think it's a pretty decent gamble for both sides. I don't know.
Yeah. I think you're probably right about that. No need to talk about it too much more, especially considering the next one's a quicker one too. You traded shortstop Wenzel, or I guess it's pronounced Wenzel, like pencil. Wenzel Perez, 2025 second and a 2024 third to the Bellies for Justin Turner. Justin Turner, very old third baseman. No real reason for him to be on the Bellies. But I guess he's hitting well lately. Talk about this trade. It's your trade.
Yeah, after I traded away Chapman, I wanted another third baseman, especially with Muncy kind of struggling. I think what precipitated it a little bit too was Muncy was starting to sit a little more against the lefties. And while for a number of reasons I won't go into too much in depth right now, I have some confidence in Muncy rebounding a little bit the rest of the season. I didn't want to solely gamble on it. So I thought Justin Turner is a pretty cheap acquisition. Wenzel Perez wasn't really somebody I was super high on. The picks, my 2025 second will be late. The third round pick will be early in the round, but it still is a third round pick. Turner, I think, has been consistently underrated the past few years because of the age, but he has been hitting really well recently. He's hit very well in prior seasons. The one thing I like about him especially is he hits in the middle of that Dodgers lineup. So despite the fact that he wasn't hitting particularly well for a good chunk of the season, he actually is one of the better RBI guys in the league. Let's see if I can pull up the exact number. I think it was 51 last I checked. 53 now. So I have a lot of confidence in him for the rest of the season. I think he was an affordable win now piece. That's not going to preclude me from making other additions or from hypothetically even moving on from him if something happens where another opportunity for a better third baseman pops up. He is day-to-day right now, though. He did get injured in the first game out of the All-Star break. I do wonder if he's going to land on the IL with an abdominal strain. They thought he was going to avoid the IL, but they're not sure anymore. So either way, it felt like a pretty cheap gamble, and whatever happens here, I'm fine with. And I thought this was a pretty solid return for the Bellies.
Yeah, I think it's solid. I'm not sure how much of your long-term plans Justin Turner is going to be. So losing that second could cost you in that way, but I guess it's not a terribly big loss.
Now, Conor, part of the reason I like Turner is because I think Conor Henderson's the future there, and I'd rather get a short-term rental rather than give up significant assets for somebody who's going to block Conor. So
that's also true. Moving on to a much larger trade, the Chicken Tendies got involved. They traded Daniel Espino, Freddie Peralta, and Josh Bell to Bo with the Flow for Nick Pratto, Jordan Walker, Herman Marquez, and Connor's 2024 there's a lot to unpack here.
A lot.
Yeah, I guess we'll start out. Daniel Espino and Jordan Walker are both really high-end prospects. Jordan Walker, I mean, he's getting top 10 hype. So maybe he might even be the highest ranked prospect to move so far this year, or maybe the highest ranked prospect to move in a long time. But getting Espino back is big. Freddie Peralta, he's been hurt, you said, right?
Yeah, Freddie Peralta's had a shoulder issue. He's on the IL. He's not going to be back until August. And I don't know entirely what his role is going to be once he does come back.
Gotcha. Yeah, just kind of going down the line here. Yeah, Josh Bell. He's a guy I thought was just a one-year wonder, but that 2019, or I guess one half wonder when he was great that 2019 first half, and then sucked the second half in the following year. But he's been terrific in Washington this year. Oh my God. 305, 385, 494. He's hitting for less power than he has in other years, but he's drawing a ton of walks. This feels more sustainable. Even I think he's a really good get for Jake to just pair with Yordan Alvarez in that lineup. Just some mashers there. Nick Prado's an interesting guy. He's had some prospect shine. He's a top. He's 62nd on Pipeline, but he's kind of, the Royals have a couple different first baseman prospects, so it's kind of a question of where he's going to play, where him and Vinny are going to play. But either way, he's in a very limited sample size in the majors. He's hit pretty well. He's a guy who can kind of readily step in for Josh Bell at the very least next year for the Tendies. Jordan Walker, we've mentioned. Herman Marquez has just not been very good this year. Anyway, I know he was looking to get rid of him. And there's a second rounder in there. Overall, it's tough. If Freddie Peralta comes back and pitches to the best of his ability, I'd say it's a win for Jake. But really, this could be one that I could easily see turning into a win for Alex and Zach. If those prospects hit, this could be a big win.
Yeah. A couple things I'll add here. So Freddie Peralta does have the shoulder injury, but I think what a lot of people don't know is that Daniel Espino is also hurt. He's been dealing with a knee issue all year, and right now it looks like he's not going to pitch for the rest of this year. He barely pitched this year. So if you're looking at this and you're taking the names of the pitchers out that Jake acquired, he acquired two starting pitchers who are currently injured, and one of them with an arm injury. There's always inherently going to be some risk with that. Now, I get that these are two very talented pitchers, and in Espino's case, it's not an arm injury. But there's inevitably going to be a level of concern there that you have to deal with. Josh Bell, obviously a masher. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. With respect to the prospects that Alex and Zach are getting, I love Jordan Walker. I think Jordan Walker could easily end up being the best piece that was acquired in this deal. I think he's a future stud. I've been very high on Jordan Walker from the beginning. I'm bummed that I picked him up after our 2021 draft, I think it was, and then cut him. The fact he went undrafted now in hindsight looks ridiculous. But I wonder if this is going to be one of those trades that when it was made, you kind of look at the big names like Espino and Freddie Peralta, and you're like, wow, like a lot was given up. And granted, I think Alex definitely gave up a lot to get the rights to Jordan Walker. And I think this is quite a gamble, but I think that it can pay off. That being said, I think this is just a very risky deal for both sides, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. If Freddie Peralta comes back and he contributes, to a championship winning team for Jake, or even if Josh Bell just mashes for the rest of the season and is a huge part of a championship winning team for Jake, Jake's not going to regret this trade one bit, but I could also see a scenario where Peralta comes back, or he has a setback, and Espino comes back next year and something looks off, and maybe Josh Bell cools off a bit, and Jordan Walker keeps looking good, and things don't look, as good for Jake here. So, if I had to pick a winner at the moment, I'd say Jake, but I do think that this one's going to take a while to judge. And kind of like the Julio Rodriguez for Jose Ramirez deal that Alex and Zach made with Erik back in 2020, where I remember being like, let's hold off here. Julio Rodriguez, very good prospect, all of that. I think this is one of those that's just going to take a little while to fully judge.
Exactly. Yeah, it really does. A lot depends here on Jordan Walker, how he turns out, and a lot depends on how the rest of Jake's season goes. Moving on now. Another trade hot off the presses is another one of Jake's trades. He sends Nate Pearson, Cade Cavalli, and Hunter Renfroe to Anthony for Nathan Eovaldi and your 2023 second. And this is, I think, a great deal for Anthony. I said it in the chat. I like this a lot for Anthony. Not to say it's bad for Jake. He's acquiring another starter. He has a lot of starters, but he's trying to slowly improve that rotation. But I mean, Nate Pearson's a great guy for a team like Anthony to go after, just because he's got the high ceiling, but hasn't proven it yet at the majors. But he could be due for a breakout if he lives up to his potential. He's currently injured. He's had a few injuries. And then, of course, Cade Cavalli being a great prospect. I don't know. I think Anthony's acquiring a lot of interesting young pitchers. He has them on his team. I guess AJ Puck is no longer an interesting pitcher. I guess he doesn't even have AJ Puck anymore. But I mean, to go with guys like Bailey Ober, who I find interesting, Braxton Garrett, he called up. He's looked really solid in his limited time so far. He's got Alek Manoah. He's got, I guess he does still have Puck. But he's got Trevor Rogers, of course, who I read an article about him being due for a huge bounce back in the second half. Yeah, I think Anthony could have a great rotation coming soon. I imagine he's going to be trading Kevin Gausman by the deadline. I'm not sure who would be in the market for Kevin Gausman. Maybe I could be in the market for Kevin Gausman. But
I think any contending team should be in the market for Kevin Gausman.
Yeah, I think, good get for Anthony for getting these guys. Yes, Nate Pearson at the moment, he has a lat injury, isn't expected to come back until September. Overall, I haven't mentioned Eovaldi much, but I think he's a solid get for Jake as well, especially Jake being a Red Sox fan. Eovaldi's having he had a very good start to the season. He's cooled off a little bit. He's got a 4.30 ERA. He's the guy who started that game on Friday, where Toronto blew the doors off the Red Sox. And he's had 2 iffy starts in a row. But with all that being said, I've talked a lot about this trade. What do you have to say?
Yeah, right idea by Anthony. I think he knocked it out of the park, being able to acquire the group of prospects that he did. There's some risk with Pearson and Cavalli. Cavalli hasn't been quite as good this year as he was last year, and Pearson has the injury history, but the upside is immense, and those are the types of pitchers that Anthony should be targeting. I like the Hunter Renfroe acquisition as well. He's been kind of hitting the ball well recently, although that's not really the big part of the deal here. With respect to Eovaldi, I'm not as high as you are on him. Eovaldi is a weird profile. So his K and walk rates are basically identical from last year, where he had a fantastic season last year. But the home run per 9 rate is almost 3 times as much as it was in 2021. He had a .74 homer per 9 in 21. That's great. He has a 2.15 homer per nine this year. The ERA is 4.30, the FIP is 4.72, but the xFIP is 3.18. The xERA is 4.38, so those are all kind of all over the place. His Statcast page is god awful. It's just giving up a lot of hard contact, it looks like, and he's 32, 33. He's had a bit of an injury history. I don't know. This just isn't the type of guy that super excites me. It's like, and maybe Pearson and Cavalli's stocks have dropped to the point where, like, maybe this can be a reasonable return, but I don't know. I'm not really a huge Eovaldi guy. Like I inquired on Eovaldi, and I'd happily take Eovaldi if the price was kind of discounted and it was just like, hey, he's kind of like not too expensive, kind of like the price of like Jameson Taillon went for earlier this year. But I wouldn't be paying like the price as if he was like an SP2 and SP3. And I wonder if Jake paid a little bit of a premium here for somebody who there's some question marks about and who hasn't been particularly impressive this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're pretty much right about that.
Just put some numbers on here quickly. His average exit velocity is in the 3rd percentile, hard hits in the 6th percentile, and barrel really is in the 9th percentile of pitchers.
That's really bad.
That's really bad. Although his 4.4 walk percentage is in the top 5% of the league, 95th percentile. So I don't know.
I don't buy into him a ton. But anyway, let's move on. Final trade was another one of yours. You traded Nelson Cruz, Blake Trinan, Austin Wells, Heston Kjerstad, and a first for Cedric Mullins. This is a deal. Boy, was it a deal. This deal was advertised. Jake said in the Slack, 2 top prospects and a first plus major league help is the price for Cedric Mullins. And it sounds like he kind of played himself out of getting better offers. Because I know I wasn't the only team that thought this. Ruthvik thought this as well, but I had thought, okay, there's a crazy price on Mullins. I'm going to not even bother inquiring. But the deal comes out and I take a look and it's like, oh, I could have topped this. I would have topped this probably, especially considering the first is 2028. Heston Kjerstad's kind of Austin Wells is good, but not great. I was thinking he was going to want a first this year plus Volpe and plus another Grayson Rodriguez. And it turns out that was not the case. This is a deal I wish I had maybe gotten in on and driven the price up.
Yeah, I'll speak to this a little bit. I'll speak about it from Daniel and Matt's perspective first, and then I'll talk about Mullins. I really like Austin Wells. I think Austin Wells is a criminally underrated prospect who, in real life, maybe doesn't get as much of the hype because he's not a good defensive prospect, and I'm not sure he's going to stick behind the plate. But he absolutely smokes the ball. He's a left-handed hitter who's going to play in Fenway. He has a lot of power, so the power is going to play
Yankee Stadium.
What? Oh, sorry.
Yankee Stadium.
Yankee Stadium. Good call. I don't think Red Sox fans would be happy with me calling Yankee Stadium Fenway. But anyways, I think he's a potential to be a very good bat. Maybe kind of what some people thought Gary Sanchez could be early in his career. With Heston Kjerstad, this is a tricky one because he had the myocarditis. There's no real template for this. It's not like, he had an arm injury or a leg injury, and we kind of have some histories with other players to deal with. They kind of slow tracked him. Then he had the hamstring injury to start this year, which pushed him back even more. He's been great since he's come back. but he's also an advanced college bat who was a second overall pick in a draft, who is playing against inferior competition. And granted, he hasn't played in a little while, so that's still an element to all of this. But this is the level of competition we should expect him to be beaten up. So maybe I sold low on him, and maybe he's going to keep hitting this well, or maybe I just sold high on him based on him beating up on inferior players. I don't know. This one's kind of a question mark. There's obviously a lot of upside here. He was a first-round pick in our rookie draft in 2021. He was a second overall pick. I guess that a lot of people didn't think he was the second best player in the 2021 MLB draft, but he definitely had the top 10 talent, and I still think there's a lot to like in the bat there. So I'd be careful with people dismissing the prospects a bit. Nelson Cruz, they just wanted him to trade. I'd never really inquired on what they wanted to do with Blake Trinan, but I think if Blake Trinan looks like he's close to coming back, and it looks like he can be a pretty effective setup man, or at least he has that history of that. So I think that he can, I think that they could reasonably flip him as well. Everybody knows what the value of a first round pick is. I'm not really going to discuss that pick. So, while there are maybe parts of this package where people are a little confused about, hey, why did they go out and get Nelson Cruz? What do they see in Heston Kjerstad? I still think there's a lot to like in this package. And honestly, Cedric Mullins is kind of tricky. I know there's a lot of people. So Daniel and Matt first advertised Cedric Mullins a couple of months ago, and I remember having discussions with them centered around Wells and Kjerstad. They've been on Wells and Kjerstad for a while. These are the two prospects they've identified for me that they've wanted. We weren't able to close the deal then. But Mullins' numbers then and even now, although they're better, have been down relative to last year. I mean, I don't think anybody expected Mullins to hit 30-30 like he did last year. I think people expected him to regress. I think there's a question, though, of how much he would actually regress. I was listening to a podcast this offseason talking about Mullins, where sometimes a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to regress, without actually kind of setting the benchmark for what that actually means. I thought he could be a 2020 player. Now, I wasn't expecting a dead end ball. I wasn't expecting maybe some of the other circumstances that have brought some of his numbers down, but he's basically put up the Tommy Edmonds slash line this year. They're almost identical. It's freaky. And Mullins is the 26th player on the player rater. He's got 20 steals right now. He, since June 1st, and I haven't checked this in a couple of days, but the number is even higher now. I think he was hitting 281 from like June 1st to July 22nd. That number is probably closer to 290 now. So he kind of looks back, at least from an average and OBP perspective, back to where he was. The K rate's down. And the speed is actually a little better than last year. I think he might get closer to like 35 stolen bases. And I think he could hit like 15 home runs. So if he's hitting like 15 home runs, 35 stolen bases, if he can give me like a 330, 340 OBP, I mean, this is basically prime Whit Merrifield. And I think the difference between Mullins and Edman is that Mullins has shown that 30-30 upside. He's 26 on the player rater right now. If Mullins can somehow have a power spike, Mullins is like a top 10, top 15 player in this player rater easily. He is, and I get the player rater is not the gospel, but I think it just shows the value that Cedric Mullins has in fantasy. And I'm excited to have him. I think he's going to be a really good fit for my team. I'd like to thank you for motivating me to reignite Mullins talks after you said that I was acquiring a bunch of old players, and I realized I was. So I wanted to get a 27-year-old and dump a 41-year-old in the process. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you did. You are younger. You have gotten younger there with this trade, despite getting older in the Turner deal. Mullins is a guy I could see being on your team for the long run, however long that may be, however long any long run can be for you. I guess you're still holding on to Yelich. But
I've held on to 4 players for the entirety of the league. That's more than most teams have held on to players. I think there might be one team that has. Let's check this quickly. Yeah, Anthony has 5, and Ruthvik and Nick have 4, but nobody else has more. So
yeah, I guess when you like a guy, you keep him, and anyone else you'll trade, or even guys like Springer you'll trade and then get back immediately.
I am low-key really good at that. There are a number of players I've traded away and then have been like, I just want to get this guy back immediately. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. You do like doing that, and a lot of the times you come out on top.
I do. It's CL champ way.
Yeah. And speaking of which, that's unfortunately a good transition to matchups. Let's pull the Band-Aid off.
Let's do it. For those of you who don't know, I have defeated Cam 7-5. If this was a 1-week matchup, Cam would have beaten me 6-5-1. But Cam had an epic collapse the last couple days.
It wasn't. I wouldn't even call it a collapse. I played fine.
Okay, let's set the stage here. This Cam, all last week was just hitting the ball just like crazy, just.
I was this week too,
and this week just like absolutely bonkers. So I thought pretty much from the beginning, once I saw this team hit, and I was like, forget it. This was like during there was a day where like Judge Carpenter and Rizzo combined for like 10 ribbies or something when they played. I think it was Boston, and they won like 15-1 or something. And I was like, yeah, Cam's gonna win. And I thought like for most of this week still that Cam was going to win. The first time I thought that Cam was not going to win was thanks to the Cincinnati Reds when Helsley and Gallegos got a save hold combo yesterday. And I was like, I have the lead in saves and holds. I might actually beat Cam. And sure enough, I beat Cam 7-5 when you were leading for almost the entire week or 2 weeks. And it really wasn't until the end here where there was kind of me really making a real comeback, I feel like. Just let's throw some actual numbers out here. Cam had 95 runs. The next highest team 72 was me. Cam had 36 doubles. The next highest was Conor with 33. Cam had 25 home runs. The next highest was Conor and me with 19 apiece. Cam had 90 ribbies. The next highest was 80 by Conor. Cam had a 361 OBP, which as of now is higher than anybody else. My 358 is second. But then you look at the pitching side. I had 163 strikeouts, which was more than anybody else in the league. I had 14 quality starts this week. The next highest was Andrew with 11. 4 saves, 6 holds were more than Cam, although and I actually think my 6 holds tied for the league lead with a couple teams. Anthony and Alex were 2 of them. And then 260 ERA, 108 whip. I don't know if either of those were the lowest. I'll check quickly. The 260 ERA was not, neither was the whip, but they were among the lowest. So I pitched my heart out. You hit your heart out, but I stole 7 bases and you stole 4. And that's what did it. So this is one of the weirder weeks in the league. And Cam would have beaten every other team but Erik. I would have beaten every other team. We both just played our
I still would have tied Erik too.
Yeah, and you still would have tied Erik.
This is the second time this year I've not won a matchup where I would have beaten every team except for the team I played.
Yeah, I mean it's not like you
boggles the mind.
Well,
I don't get what more do I have to do? I mean, seriously, we did a roto update. I was tied at the top with Erik. I've yet to beat a playoff team, but every matchup except for one, my first blowout loss to you, and my first game against Erik wasn't super close. No, is that true? I don't know.
You came back a bit, and it was impressive.
No, that's true. I did.
You weren't
But
setting your lineup on vacation. Yeah.
that's what it was. Yes, I wasn't setting my lineup on vacation, but I still very easily could have won. It's like I'm a team that's 87-75, but 0-20 in one run matchups. That's how I feel right now. I don't know what I have to do to get over the hump. My team is playing great. It's just I'm just rolling snake eyes every time on the last day. I don't know what to do. The luck is just not falling my way. There's nothing more I could be doing. You just got a bunch of holds towards the end.
Yeah. Shout out to Michael King for getting a hold and then immediately fracturing his elbow. Taking his exit off my team, but not before giving me a very critical hold, which I needed. So
my bullpen, I want to give MVP to one of your relievers, but maybe I could give MVP.
No,
what won the matchup for you was my relievers. Liam Hendricks wasn't great. Michael Fulmer 3 whip. Genesis Cabrera 171 whip. Chafin was terrible when I streamed him. Clay Holmes had a rough week. It's like my bullpen collapsed. I could give MVP to Giovanni Gallegos, although Freddie Freeman's the clear winner, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say Freddie Freeman this week went like balls to the wall, just like
not Gallegos. I mean Helsley, but yes,
Helsley. Yeah. For Freddie Freeman is finally hitting for power again, and it is a beautiful sight. But he is going into Sunday. He had an 11-game hitting streak in which he was 22 for 41. So that's a 537 batting average. Just absolutely nuts. He's clearly the MVP, although none of the categories he did well in, like I lost all those categories. I don't think he stole a base this week, so I don't think he affected that. So in fact, he got caught stealing in his last plate appearance today. But this is just one of those unfortunate ones where I think this might just be a preview for a playoff matchup. Like this felt like a playoff matchup with the intensity, how well both of our teams played. I mean, the difference is that you had a 5 ERA this week.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I'm firing on all cylinders on offense. I'm the number 1 ERA and whip team, and yet I come out against you needing ERA and whip to win, and I drop a 5 ERA.
Can we talk about how I had 19 starts this week and 14 of them were quality starts, and then I left a quality start on my bench yesterday on purpose because I ran out of starts? That is insane. I mean, I wish that counted as a part of our records, but it doesn't. But I jumped like 2 or 3 teams just this week in quality starts. I was leading the league in quality starts going into today. I don't know if I still am, but 14 quality starts. You chose to bench some starters late in the week. Do you regret that decision?
No, I don't think it would have mattered. I especially don't regret benching Nick Pivetta. That being said, yeah, starting Darvish was great when I benched him. Malley was pretty good when I benched him today. It might have flipped whip. But on the other hand, when I benched them, I was winning whip and I didn't want to lose it. So there's a lot that went into it.
No, Michael Fulmer really did the number on your whip today. You had like a 106 whip and then it jumped to a 113 after he came in, and you never got whip back after that. That pretty much sunk you there.
Yeah, Fulmer cost me this week. As great as he's been, as many holds as he's gotten me that I've needed, he biffed it.
So let me ask you one more question here. What's your level of concern? As you mentioned, you have not beaten a projected playoff team yet this year. You have tied 3 times against projected playoff teams, I believe.
I think so.
But no win. There's been a lot of close matchups, but nothing's really been in your favor. How are you feeling about this?
I don't know. I mean, logically, statistically, things are gonna bounce my way, right? I mean, I have to regress to the mean. It's just it's just not possible for me to play this well and lose so many unlucky matchups. That's just not a thing that can continue happening logically. But like this is my chance. This is my year. Everything is clicking for me this year except for the results. Judge is having a career year. Soto's having a great year. Zach Wheeler is probably not going to be this good next year. And what's his name? McClanahan's breaking out. And Yu Darvish is probably having his final great year. And it's like, this is the year to go out and do it. Kershaw, same way. This is the year to go out and do it. This is the year I should be the number one seed. I probably, frankly, should be the number one seed right now if I had average luck. And I don't know. I feel like I may have missed the boat, you know?
Well, I will say there's still time. You just need to make it into the playoffs. This almost feels like a therapy session.
I need it.
Yeah, you just need to make it into the playoffs. As a side note, I was listening to another podcast on my drive down, and they're talking about how one of the co-hosts gave the other co-host like an hour like therapy session on his main team, and was just like, your team's actually fine, you know, despite all the shit that's been going down. So maybe it's your turn for this, but I think I told you this off air. You could easily not beat a single playoff team in the regular season and then just like annihilate through the postseason. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. Your team is still very dangerous. But I do wonder if this motivates you to maybe go out and everything you're saying sounds like, hey, I need to make a big win now strike. And I'm ready to put a hot take into the podcast here. I put on the hot takes sheet that you would trade two of Kelenic, Bohm, and Adele before the trade deadline. I think you're trading Kelenic before the trade deadline.
Interesting. That is bold. I don't know. I should do something, but at the same time, I could very easily be 12-2 with like only a couple minor things having changed. I don't see a lot of room for me to make a move. What moves are there for me to make? What is there I can do? You know, I'm torn between I got to do something and I don't need to do anything.
Well, you always know my philosophy. When you think you've done everything, there's still more trades to be made. So maybe take a page out of my book.
True. I mean, I already acquired a top bat mid-season by virtue of picking up Matt Carpenter off free agency.
My God, if you would have won this week, I mean, Judge or Carpenter definitely would have.
Yeah, Judge had an even better week. Judge hit 7 homers, 16 RBI. Carpenter was great too. Why? And we were talking about this off air. How is it possible that Erik didn't pick up Carpenter first? Erik, every time something like this happens, Erik has had him already. Why was Carpenter a free agent? How is that possible? I guess he wasn't starting every day all of the time, but I don't know. I mean, I even felt like I picked him up towards the tail end of his hype and he wouldn't last on my team, but he's just been so good.
Well, I think
how was he not owned?
I think he had a hot streak earlier in the year, and obviously not as hot as this, where he wasn't playing every day. And then I think a lot of people, one, kind of got that assumption that he was just going to be a part-time player. And two, when you just look at some of the names that are there, you know, LeMahieu and Torres and Donaldson and all of them, you just kind of assumed, yeah, he's not going to play. But they're like throwing him out in right field just to get him on the field.
Exactly.
Like, that's insane. I mean, it helps that Joey Gallo's been so bad too. But yeah, this is. I'm very glad not to see Aaron Judge and Matt Carpenter facing me next week, because, God, they kill me. Every time Aaron Judge hit a home run this week, I died a little on the inside. The only reason it didn't hurt as bad was because I knew that home runs and ribbies and runs were out of reach. But that was good riddance.
Good riddance. And good riddance to this matchup. We've talked about this for like 15 minutes. It's time to move on.
I won't be moved. Or one more thing I'd like to say. I am now 8-1 versus Cam all time. So yeah, just wanted to make sure.
Speaking of people who have only lost to me once, how about Erik versus Ruthvik?
Which one of them has only lost to you once?
Erik, I've only beaten Erik once.
The game technically isn't over, but Ruthvik declared a loss as the Mets took a big enough lead to push Adam Ottavino and Edwin Diaz out of a hold, or out of a hold and save, and barring Jolie Rodriguez blowing it here to create a save situation without recording an out. Although he has put two guys on, he just walked Profire and Cronenworth in back-to-back at bats. It looks like Erik is going to pull it out by very narrowly. Poor Ruthvik. Erik looks like he's going to win 7-5. Erik looks like he's going to advance to 10-2, and Ruthvik looks like he is going to go down to 7-5-2. A very solid offensive week for Erik. Not as good of an offensive week for Ruthvik, especially in the OBP department. What's interesting on the pitching side here was that Ruthvik had 9 quality starts, 7 saves, and 3 holds, compared to Erik's 7 quality starts, 3 saves, and 2 holds. But Erik had more strikeouts, and that's the category that's going to win it for him. They split ERA and WHIP. Erik just narrowly won. Erik, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying this is luck or anything, but boy, like Erik is just like, things have been clicking for him this year. His team's been playing very well. I mean, you and him are tied into Roto, but the difference between you and him is that he's actually performing up to that Roto, and he did it again this week.
He did, and he played great on offense. I know he has had a few down offensive weeks. This was not one of them. It is always a little hard to gauge what a team should be doing in a long week, but 69 runs, 70 RBI, we're both near the top. He also had a great pitching week in his rate stats. All the rate stats were solid. And he did just enough steals, just a good enough ERA and strikeouts in order to beat Ruthvik. Ruthvik couldn't quite.
Breaking news on that point: Jolie Rodriguez has now given up an RBI double to Manny Machado. There's still no outs in the inning, and you have to start wondering if Edwin Diaz is warming up and maybe comes in.
Interesting. Breaking news as well: Kevin Gausman is not on the block.
Yeah,
Kevin Gausman's not for sale.
Yeah. I suspect that might change closer to the deadline. I mean, we'll see. I'm sure if somebody gives him an offer that he can't refuse, he's not going to say no. The question is, does anybody have an incentive to give him an offer that he wouldn't refuse?
We shall see. Who is it that's feeling desperate? I wonder.
Sounds like the team that just lost to an epic matchup to a team who had 14 quality starts.
Maybe. Could also be Ruthvik. Ruthvik didn't hit amazingly this week, although he did hit 28 doubles. It was mostly his pitching that got him his 5 category wins. Tough loss. Ruthvik's going to be tied with Yuki now for that 6th seed, unless, I guess, unless Connor's going to be tied with me, right?
Oh wow, Ruthvik will be tied with Yuki.
Yeah.
I thought you just misspoke. I wasn't even thinking about it. He's going to be tied with Yuki. Who is the tiebreaker?
I don't know. Let's take a look. Have they played each other this year yet? I'm sure they must have. Yeah. Ruthvik did beat Yuki 7-5, and they play again next week.
Oh, I think we have our matchup of the week.
I think we do. Before we do that,
more breaking news. Edwin Diaz is in the game.
Edwin Diaz is in the game. Let's
Edwin
stay
Diaz is
here.
all the games. Oh my god! All right, let's get this on live.
Edwin Diaz needs 3 strikeouts and Ruthvik ties. That's what the deal is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh boy. How many outs? How many outs are there? What's going on?
There are no outs in the inning. Edwin Diaz.
This is the 9th.
This is the 9th. Edwin Diaz needs to strike out all 3 batters. And if he does not strike out, if he doesn't strike out the first batter, it's over. Or if he doesn't strike out the second batter, they all 3 have to be strikeouts.
And this could be the first ever Lee Corso not so fast of the Dynasty League. Real quick, I guess, yeah, Ruthvik's top performers. He's had a great week. He had from Ty France, American League All-Star. Charlie Blackmon, 12 ribbies this week, 419 on base. Solid week from Dylan Carlson, who hit 4 doubles with a 405 on base. Pitching wise, 3 quality starts from Logan Webb. Logan Webb was tremendous. Also, Jamison Tyone did a good job. Looking at Erik's team, if Erik wins, I think matchup MVP could go to a few people. Teoscar Hernandez was terrific. 13 ribbies, 4 homers, 9 runs, 4 doubles, 410 on base. Leody Taveras hit 5 doubles. I bet that's who Erik would want, especially considering he stole 2 bases. Someone named Derek Hall got 4 at-bats on Erik's team.
He is the Phillies U cleanup hitter.
Derek.
Yep. Derek. I don't know how you pronounce it.
The Rick. Is Derek short for DeRichard?
Like DeRichard Blyer, Oriole reliever legend. I'm just trying to think of a more famous Richard baseball player.
Richard Blyer, but God, I mean, Dylan Cease has to be matchup MVP again for Erik, doesn't he? Dylan Cease is just ridiculous. He's on an unbelievable tear.
Did he have the most strikeouts this week? Because if so, he's definitely the MVP.
Scherzer had more strikeouts, but Dylan Cease went 18 2/3 innings, 3 starts without allowing an earned run.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
He also struck out 21.
All right.
So Dylan Cease joins Aaron Judge and Yordan Alvarez. If Erik holds on, joins Aaron Judge and Yordan Alvarez as people to win matchup MVP 3 times this year. How about that?
God damn.
But we are still watching Edwin Diaz. I'm not sure this has been said in the Slack, but I'm not sure we've said it over the air yet. But Edwin Diaz has struck out the side in 2 of his last 5 appearances. Greg commented, K's got a 51.4 K percentage, which means there's a 1 in 8 chance of him striking out the next 3.
Breaking news, Luke Voigt has popped out. Hence,
there we go. There is the dream. Erik has won.
There's, I guess, a scenario where Diaz gives up 4 runs here. The game is tied, and the game goes into extras, and Ottavino comes in and gets some strikeouts. But I think I'm ready to call this one. Then again, I didn't think that Diaz would come into the inning when I outlined the scenario at the beginning of the inning before Joely Rodriguez had done anything that Edwin could come in. So who knows? But yeah, I think for all intents and purposes, we can hand a W to Erik. A damn shame. And let's move on now to the next matchup, the third playoff matchup. That is Jake versus Conor. Conor pulls out a hard-fought tie against Jake. Moves back up into a tie for 4th with me. A little bit of a disappointing matchup for Jake. He falls to 8-4-3. 8-4-2.
8-3-3.
Oh, because they tied. Yeah, we're off today.
We are off today. It has been a long time since we recorded one of these together.
What was the last time we recorded one of these together? I think the beginning of the month, July.
It must have been, yeah.
1st. No, yeah, it's been a hot sec. The last trade I remember talking about live on air was the Loa Saiga deal. So, and that was June 30th. So yeah, we were all out of sorts tonight.
Conor dominated the hitting stats, 70 runs, 81 ribbies, 33 doubles. He won 5 of the 6 hitting stats. Jake won 5 of the 6 pitching stats. He was just one quality start shy of flipping this matchup. Conor, on the other hand, was just one a hold shy or a little bit of whip shy of flipping the matchup.
If he didn't start Robbie Ray blew up 3 innings, like 9er and 6er, and he had like a 3 whip. If he didn't start Robbie Ray against the Astros, which like I'm not blaming him, I would have started Robbie Ray too.
That's one that's just hindsight right now. You got to start Robbie Ray.
Right, especially how well he's been pitching. Edwin Diaz got a strikeout, but that is the only strikeout he got. The game is over, and all matchups are official. Congratulations.
All matchups are official. Good job, everyone. Well done, everyone. Matchup MVP, though, could go in a few different directions, especially since there was a tie. I think, God, it's hard not to give it to Sandy Alcantara, huh? 22 strikeouts, 2.57 ERA, 0.79 whip. I guess it didn't flip a ton. Maybe the whip did help, and he was terrific. Looking at Conor's hitters, DJ LeMahieu scored 13 runs, walked 10 times at a 5.19 on base. Paul Goldschmidt drove in 12 runs as well. I think I'm going to give it to Alcantara. What do you say?
I think it's very fair. Alcantara's just balling out this year. Man, no way around it.
Yeah, no, he for sure is. Anything else to say about this matchup? I know we spent an absurd amount of time on the first 2, particularly the first one. So I don't want to give this one short shrift. This is going to probably be a 2-hour long episode.
Well, we haven't recorded in a while. I think you're just excited to have me back. I don't think you want to record another one of these alone. I think you have more fun with me, even when I talk about Kevin Biggio for 20 straight minutes without interruption and mention Chad Muller. But no, I don't have anything else to say about this matchup. Why don't we move into the last playoff matchup? We talked about all 3 of them.
Yeah. Why don't we move to the
5-win matchup? Let's talk about Anthony and Alex.
Yeah, let's do it. This is just the 9th time ever a team has won a matchup, winning just 5 categories. Anthony beats Alex and Zach. Weird matchup, but wouldn't expect anything else between these 2 teams. On base percentages were low across the board. Anthony did hit really well, though. He scored 65 runs, 32 doubles, 70 ribbies. They stole 10 bases and lost that category. Alex stole 11. Alex pitched really well, 3.34 ERA, 105 Ks, which wasn't even enough to win. 6 holds as well. Alex falls even further. That team drops to 2-8-3. Meanwhile, Anthony gets his 3rd win of the season. That should move them in ahead of BBO, actually, up into 9th place.
Wow. So, 3-7-4 and 2-9-3 are the records for Anthony and Alex and Zach. But pretty solid performances by both teams. Nothing spectacular, but each of their teams put themselves in position to win, and Anthony came out with a narrow win here. I don't have too much to add here. I wonder speculatively if there's some implications for this in terms of lottery seedings later on or lottery odds. I'm not really projecting either of these teams as playoff teams, unfortunately. But I think these are going to be 2 interesting teams to watch over the next couple of weeks as we approach the trade deadline. And it's nice to see that they are fighting hard, and their teams are still capable of putting up some good performances. So even in down years for both of them.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to go off the beaten path for this matchup MVP.
Oh,
Hunter Renfroe, acquired by Anthony during the All-Star break, only plays 3 games for Anthony's team this week and proceeds to go 6 for 12, 571 on base, hit 3 homers, drive in 7 runs, score 4. I guess he's on Milwaukee now. I didn't even know.
He's been there since the offseason. He was the very last trade before the lockdown.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was a long time ago. But I think Anthony, I mean, he may not have won this matchup without him. He probably wouldn't have. Certainly, yeah, with that run total. Hunter Renfroe played great down the stretch for Anthony. And he got him in a deal where he also got those 2 young pitchers, but he proved to be a great immediate addition to the Major League roster for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Second Hunter to win a matchup MVP, following Hunter Green winning a matchup MVP in week 8.
Hunter Green won a matchup MVP. Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he had a couple great weeks in there in the middle of the season.
Oh man, good for him. That's right, because he had that no hitter where he threw 130 pitches or threw 7 1/3 or something dumb like that. How's he been doing recently? Any better?
He's kind of fallen off a bit.
A damn shame. Okay, yeah. So let's get to the other matchup that was close. Andrew beat EVO 6-5-1. Not the best offensive week for Andrew. The only category he won was steals, although he had 11 steals. But he dominated EVO on the pitching side. He had 11 quality starts he had 11 out of 12 going into today. So he ended up with 11 out of 13 quality starts. You got to love that ratio. It's a damn shame, too, that came over 2 weeks and it took 1 more quality start, because that, I guess by 14 would have broke the record, but 11 and 13 is a more impressive ratio than 14 and 19. 6 saves, solid, a 198 ERA and a 102 whip, both led the league this week. And kind of reminded me of our matchup a little bit, where Andrew pitched better than EVO, and that ended up being the difference. Notably, they tied in doubles too. So had EVO gotten 1 more double, we're talking about a tie here. As Andrew really looks to keep pace here kind of with the playoff teams here. I know he was kind of sitting a little bit on the outside looking in right now. I think Yuki has kind of established himself more as that outside team that looks like a threat right now. But I've been really impressed with how Andrew's team's been performing recently. And his starting pitching, especially, I feel like it's been trending upwards a bit. So good for him. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, like you mentioned, the ERA and the whip, that pitching is just crazy this week for Andrew. Solid hitting for both teams, particularly EVO. But yeah, not a whole lot more to say. I think Andrew's pitching just deserves a lot of credit. Credit where credit is due, particularly for, let's go, John Gray, former Rocky, had a 13 shutout innings, 2 quality starts, 14 Ks in 13 innings. Other guys such as Framber Valdez pitched well. Zach Gallen had a good week. And even bullpen arms like Ranger Suarez. Is Ranger Suarez starting or relieving?
He is starting.
Okay.
He probably still
bullpen
has
arms
a
like
reliever moniker because he was the closer for a bit last year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically all there is to say about this matchup. Andrew, like you said, kind of elbowing his way into the discussion at the very least. He's clearly number 8 right now. There's a growing gap between 8 and 9. I guess now that 9 is Anthony. But there is only one more matchup to talk about, and that is between now tied for 6th with Ruthvik. That is Yuki blowing out the bellies, the one non-close matchup of the week.
Yeah. I don't really have much to say about this matchup. It's kind of interesting because as much of a blowout as it was, like a lot of these offensive categories were actually not too far off. Like Yuki only had one more double, one more steal, only 4 more OBP points, only 2 more quality starts. Whip was close. Yuki only won that by 0.03 points, but Yuki was able to just kind of easily cruise here for a W. It wasn't his most impressive week necessarily. Pretty solid offensive week, especially in the OBP department, but not maybe the most glamorous looking week. But Yuki was able to pull out a win, and to be able to be a playoff team, you need to be able to pull off wins against bad teams, and Yuki did that here. So good for Yuki. I really don't have too much more to say about this matchup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Not a crazy amount to say. The Bellies scored a fair amount of runs, but didn't, and they had a great on base percentage as they always do, but even that wasn't enough to win that category. In general, they didn't play great, and Yuki played average enough. Like you said, you got to win in weeks where you're not that great, and that's what Yuki did. I guess Yuki's matchup MVP could go in a few directions here, but I'll give it to Austin Riley, who hit 5 bombs, 405 on base, 8 runs, 7 ribbies. Helped out that team a lot on route to winning 5 hitting categories.
Absolutely. I would have 12-0'd Daniel and Matt, and you would have 10-2'd them.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not too surprising, I guess. You played great this week, and the Bellies did not.
Yep. And you played great this week, too, and the Bellies did not. The difference is both you and the Bellies lost.
Funny how that works.
Oh, poor Cam.
Yeah.
Don't worry. We can cut that out. All right. Do we want to discuss our matchups to watch for next week? I guess we kind of already gave it away. Ruthvik versus Yuki for the 6th seed.
Yeah, who would have thought that going into the year, huh? Both these teams missed the playoffs last year. Yuki's team just looked dead in the water, and now these teams are tied for that last playoff spot and the right to play as of now.
Yuki's a pain in my ass. I don't know if I want to play Yuki. His team just somehow finds a way to beat me all the time, or make it close. I don't know if I really want to play Ruthvik either. But God, I mean, this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I don't know who's going to win. This one could really go either way. We'll get to that in our picks in a second. I guess another matchup that I'd like to highlight, and which probably would be the matchup to watch if Ruthvik and Yuki weren't playing for the 6th seed, is Erik playing Jake. A battle of the 2 teams that currently possess a bye.
I mean, in theory, it's the 2 top teams in the league at the moment. So that's definitely larger, even if it's not directly for a playoff spot. But yeah, no, absolutely, this is a fun one.
That's not where I thought you were going with that sentence. I thought you were going to say even if they aren't the top 2 teams in the league.
Even if they're not.
Just because you think you're the number one.
God, I don't know. I could be. I think I could be.
You came in so confident in your rant. You're like, man, I deserve to be the number 1 team.
I could be. But we're gonna skip past that for now. I think this is just a fun rematch of a matchup where we all thought Jake had won the first time, and it turns out he had not. So there's shenanigans afoot when these teams play.
Shenanigans indeed. All right, why don't we get to the pick'em? Last week, we had some different picks last week. We'll start with the Yuki v. Daniel and Matt matchup. We both picked Yuki to win. We both picked Andrew to beat EVO. We picked different results for all of the other matchups. I picked Anthony to beat Alex and Zach. Anthony did win. You picked Alex and Zach. I picked Conor to beat Jake. You picked Jake, correct?
They tied.
They tied. I entered this wrong into the sheet. I'm even off on putting stuff into the sheet this week. God damn. I picked Ruthvik and Nick to upset Erik, and Erik ended up winning at the last second. And I picked you to beat me, and you picked me to beat you. And your consolation prize for losing your matchup against me was that you beat me in that pick'em matchup. So congratulations. And indeed, you did have a good pick'em week because you went 4-1-1, which has now put you at 43, 17 and 24. And I went 3-2-1, so I'm at 43, 23 and 18. That is below you, which means Cam Kane, you get to enter your pick'em first.
Wonderful.
Whenever you are ready, sir, you may take it away.
Let's take it away. I think I'll beat Alex and Zach. I think Connor's going to beat Anthony. I think Andrew's going to beat the Bellies. I think I'm going to save this one for last. I think, these are the rest. I think you'll beat EBO. And the other two ones we have to watch are really interesting. I think Ruthvik and Nick are going to pull off the win against Yuki. And I think Jake is going to beat Erik. I think Jake, fresh off that almost victory, I guess it's not fresh anymore, but coming off that near victory against Erik, which is really that one matchup seems to be the story of the year so far, doesn't it? That and a few other things, but that seems to be the most crazy, most defining moment of the year so far. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'd say so. That was I don't think anybody saw that coming. I certainly did not see that matchup flipping randomly. But that was definitely one of the crazier moments, not just of the year, but then I've ever seen. Although we have had some crazy moments in league history. Those are some solid picks. Let me put in mine. I think I will beat EVO. I think Conor will beat Anthony. I think you will beat Alex. I think Andrew will beat Daniel and Matt. We are in agreement there. And then it gets tricky. What's weird about the Ruthvik and Nick v. Yuki matchup is that if you were looking at this strictly at how their seasons have gone from the beginning, you would think that Ruthvik and Nick are the better team than Yuki, and that Ruthvik and Nick losing to Yuki would be Yuki upsetting them. But Yuki, if I remember correctly, was ahead in the Roto and has consistently been ahead of Ruthvik and Nick.
I think Ruthvik and Nick passed Yuki in the most recent Roto. I can double check.
They did. Okay, I stand corrected on that. Either way, I think it's close, and I don't want to just. I'm feeling Yuki.
Ooh, feeling Yuki. It's been a year of Yuki.
It's been a year of Yuki. Yuki's won the last 4 matchups.
He's won a lot in a row. He started out so slow.
Too. Let's pull up Yuki's schedule quickly. He's won his last 4. Granted, all of them against non-playoff teams. He tied Erik before that. He had a win against Alex. He's had a really easy schedule, honestly, the last 6 weeks.
It gets really tough the rest of the way.
Is it like all playoff teams the rest of the way?
For the most part, plus EBO is in there, and then Andrew's in there, but that could be a big matchup with Andrew too.
Yeah, I'm not taking a matchup for Andrew against Andrew for granted here. That's going to be a hard one. I don't know how to explain it, but Yuki has a fun way of just making things frustrating and close, and I feel confident that he's going to figure something out here. I don't know why I call it a gut feeling, but I think Erik's going to beat Jake. I don't really have any. Let me think about this one. The fun thing to do would just be to pick a tie, but
I have gone 3 of my past 4 weeks without picking a tie.
Yeah, they 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 weirdly feel destined to tie, but I feel like picking a tie never works out. I don't think picking a tie has actually worked out at any point this year.
Let's take a look.
I'm just
I
going through right now. I haven't seen a tie that has a green square in our sheet. So
Yeah, it's hard to pick ties. I've gone kind of away from picking ties. That was my last year thing, picking a tie of the week. I've actually maybe not most weeks, but a lot of weeks not picked one.
you went from a matchup of the week, or you went from picking ties of the week to now doing MVPs of the week. I think the MVP of the week is an improvement over the tie of the week.
Yeah, what's my of the week going to be next year?
Oh man, but it's weird because like it's when I think of Erik and Jake's teams facing each other for whatever reason, the first word I think of is tie, and I'm gonna pick them to tie.
All right, give me that necktie.
Yeah, give me that necktie. All right, this is going to be a fun week of matchups. Hopefully, this is a less stressful matchup for you after our last 2 weeks. I'm certainly hoping for the same. I don't know what made my blood boil more, our matchup or the last 2 weeks of studying for the bar. I think I would gladly study for the bar some more if that meant I never had to watch another Aaron Judge home run. But
He's got 37.
my God, I just hope I don't face you in the playoffs. And if I do, I hope that Matt Carpenter has at least cooled off by then. I have no expectations for Judge, but I hope that Matt Carpenter is back to being irrelevant. As much as I love the story, I just every time I watch him hit a home run this week, I died on the inside.
I would much rather you win the bar exam and lose all your matchups than lose the bar exam and win all your matchups.
Yeah, I mean that's a nice thing of you to say, but also, no. It sucks because that's what I'm obligated to root for. But
is there anyone who wins the bar exam? Is there one individual person who is declared the winner at the end of it all?
God, that would be. I feel like everybody would just hate the winner. I don't know. I don't think anybody wins the bar exam. There's honestly no winners because we all have to take the bar exam, and it's such a shitty thing. So no, I don't think anybody wins the bar exam. We will win when we finish and fingers crossed pass, but no, there is no winning beforehand.
You will. Well, you've studied a ton. You're going to do great. Best of luck on the bar. We'll know. It'll be done by the time. Well, I guess by the time you saw a look at this, it'll be ongoing by the time you, the listener, are listening to this. But yeah, best of luck again, and we will be back next week with another episode. See you soon.
See you soon.
I love this bar. It's my kind of place. Just walking through the front door puts a big smile on my face. It ain't too far. Come as you are. I love this bar.
Hello and welcome to episode number 86 of The Pitcher or the Pitter. Hold on. I said pitter.
Nice one. You just want to combine it. You're so ready to get the episode started.
The hitcher or the pitter.
The pitcher or the pit.
The cod passed by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League.
Yeah.